First, it's beautiful. That's the first impression. The kind that steals your breath in silence, not with spectacle but with scale. In the vast silence beyond the moon's orbit, anchored at the cold and distant Lagrange point 2, the James Webb Space Telescope has once again opened its golden eyes and stared deep into the cosmos. There, wrapped in layers of ancient dust and light older than our planet, it has captured an image that isn't just awe-inspiring, it's impossible. An image that breaks rules we thought were inviolable. One that hints we may not understand the universe at all. Webb's instruments, tuned with surgical precision to detect the faintest whispers of infrared light, locked onto something hiding just beyond the veil. At first, the data seemed like background noise, an anomaly flickering in the stream of cosmic chatter. But the pattern persisted. The telescope returned again and again to the same region of space, each time confirming the impossible. What it had found wasn't just another distant star or galaxy. It was something else. Something ancient. Something alien. Not necessarily in origin but in behavior. A structure whose light signatures and spatial footprint shattered every known astrophysical model. Hovering at the very edge of the observable universe, this object radiated light from a time so early that the laws of physics themselves were still settling into place. It existed, somehow, more than 13.5 billion light-years away, meaning the light it emits began its journey when the universe was less than 200 million years old. That's not just rare. That's before galaxies. Before stars as we understand them. Before order. And yet, here it is, bright, structured, deliberate. But it's not just its age. It's how the light behaves. Normally, light from such distances is severely redshifted, stretched into long, low-energy wavelengths by the ongoing expansion of space. But this object defies that rule. Its signal doesn't just arrive in the deep infrared. It fluctuates. It pulses. It bleeds unexpectedly into multiple bands, even mid-infrared, in ways that no known natural phenomenon should. As though the light was being adjusted mid-flight. As if the redshift was being anticipated, compensated for. As if the light itself had been engineered to arrive intact. The idea is absurd, but the data doesn't lie. What Webb saw was an emission that repeated at rhythmic intervals, perfectly spaced like beats in a cosmic symphony. Not a chaotic outburst like a gamma-ray burst or a star dying in a supernova, but a controlled, repeating structure of energy. And the more scientists examined the signature, the more organized it appeared. This wasn't noise. This was music, complex, deliberate, and mathematically elegant. Across the scientific community, eyebrows lifted. Then jaws dropped. Then silence. Because the implications are staggering. If natural, this object implies that matter and energy could have formed complex, massive structures far earlier than any current cosmological model allows. It suggests that the timeline of structure formation in the early universe needs to be rewritten. Not adjusted, redefined entirely. It means that stars and galaxies may not be the first engines of complexity. That something else, something bigger, might have preceded them. But if it's not natural, if this structure is something else, then we're looking at a paradigm shift of galactic proportions. Imagine, for a moment, a civilization not bound by planets or moons, but one that manipulates energy and light as freely as we bend metal. A civilization so old it predates the Milky Way, sending signals not to communicate but to anchor itself across time. A civilization whose architecture spans hundreds of thousands of light-years, yet maintains synchronization so precise it borders on the supernatural. That's what the data implies. Webb measured the source's diameter at nearly 300,000 light-years, almost 3 times the size of the Milky Way. And yet, somehow, its emissions remain coherent across its entire span. That means every part of this structure, if it is one, is not just active but coordinated. Think about that. A structure larger than most galaxies acting as a single, unified entity. No random bursts, no interference, no decay. Just precision. As if the entire thing is operating like a single instrument. At first, some researchers tried to fit the object into known categories. A quasar? Too regular. A galaxy cluster? Too organized. A gravitational lens? The light doesn't bend, it pulses. One by one, every possible explanation within current astrophysics was eliminated. And that left only 2 options. Either this is a natural object unlike anything we've ever seen, formed under physical laws we don't yet understand, or it is something built. Something placed. Something that speaks. Some began running models, translating the energy pulses into harmonic functions. What they found only deepened the mystery. The ratios between the pulses mirrored certain mathematical constants, ones we recognize from quantum mechanics and relativity. Some even reflected the golden ratio, a number that appears again and again in biological structures, crystal formations and human art. These weren't chaotic emissions. They were rhythmic, mathematical, possibly even meaningful. Not in language perhaps, but in resonance. It raises uncomfortable questions. Could this be a beacon? Not a signal meant for us, but a message cast blindly across the cosmos? A monument written in light, preserved across billions of years? If so, we are the cave dwellers staring at the first stroke of paint on the wall, unaware that we're looking at history. Skeptics argue for caution. They suggest this might be a new form of energy lattice, an exotic phase of matter born from the violent turbulence of the early universe. Others suggest it could be the remnant of a primordial star field or a massive dark matter structure amplifying light through unknown interactions. But even those explanations stretch our current physics to the breaking point. The truth is this doesn't fit. Not into our models. Not into our math. And not into our expectations of what the early universe was supposed to be. That's the real issue. Not just what this thing is, but when it is. Because if it's as old as the data says, then complexity didn't wait billions of years to arise. It happened almost immediately. That means the conditions for organization, possibly even life, weren't some rare outcome in a slow-burning universe. They were baked in from the beginning, woven into the structure of spacetime like a hidden code. And this discovery might be the first visible fragment of that code. Imagine if we'd never built the James Webb Space Telescope. Imagine if we never tuned our instruments to the whispering edge of the infrared spectrum. This object would have remained hidden forever. A ghost at the edge of perception. A mystery undiscovered. And that might still be true for thousands of others. For every one anomaly Webb finds, there could be dozens more hiding in the deep. Structures waiting, pulsing, emitting patterns we haven't yet learned to decode. The scientific community is divided. Some are calling for an entirely new class of celestial objects. Others are cautious, wary of falling into the trap of sensationalism. But no one is dismissing it. The data is too clean, too consistent, too deliberate. This isn't a glitch. It's a revelation. And if it holds up, if follow-up observations confirm what we're seeing, then everything changes. From our understanding of physics to our place in the universe. Because if something that large, that old, and that precise can exist at the very dawn of time, then the universe isn't what we thought it was. It's not a slow evolution of chaos into order. It might be order from the start, deliberate, designed, or at least inherently predisposed to structure. That changes the stakes of everything. It means intelligence isn't a late arrival. It could be a cosmic inevitability. A repeating pattern that echoes across the ages, rising in different forms in different galaxies under different skies. And we, here on this pale blue dot, might not be the beginning of something, but just a continuation. A note in a far older song. A structure on this scale, if artificial, doesn't simply suggest technological advancement, it shatters the ceiling of possibility itself. To build such a thing would require mastery over forces that remain purely theoretical for us today. It would mean the creators were not just intelligent but cosmic engineers, constructing vast megastructures not to orbit stars, but to harvest, manipulate, or regulate energy on the scale of galaxies. This, by definition, is what a Type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale would look like. An intelligence not limited by planetary needs or stellar outputs, but one that bends entire galaxies to its will. The kind of civilization that would consider a Dyson sphere not an endgame but a starting point. The kind that would make us, even at our peak, seem like ants marveling at a skyscraper. What deepens the sense of mystery is the object's gravitational signature. Webb may not be a gravity-detecting telescope, but its ability to observe how light bends around celestial masses offers another kind of vision, gravitational lensing. When light from background galaxies curves around a massive foreground object, it reveals the gravitational footprint of what lies unseen. In this case, the light bending around the anomaly is subtle, but the shift is unmistakable. The object influences space itself, bending the path of light without corresponding mass. This creates a riddle. How can something so relatively dim have such immense gravitational reach? It's a question without a satisfying answer. The simplest explanation, dark matter, doesn't quite hold. This object doesn't behave like a cloud of invisible mass. Its light pulses and harmonics indicate coherence, not randomness. Others have proposed more exotic physics. Negative mass, warped spacetime geometries, or localized dark energy concentrations. Ideas once confined to chalkboards and speculative equations are now being re-examined in the light of actual data. Concepts that have long danced on the margins of science fiction, Controlled gravity, artificial gravity wells, spacetime engineering, suddenly feel less like fantasy and more like future headlines. Astrophysicists have launched simulation after simulation, bending the known laws of matter and energy to try and recreate what Webb is observing. All have failed. Under the timeline dictated by the data, the formation of this object through natural cosmic evolution is impossible. The physics we rely on, our standard model of cosmology, our understanding of early universal conditions, our timelines of star and galaxy formation, none of it can produce what we are seeing. It would be easier to believe the object was a mirage. But it is not. It's real. The data is repeated, consistent, verifiable. The question has changed. It's no longer does it exist? The answer to that is yes. The question is what is it, and how? Some theorists, now pushed into territory they never expected to tread, have started whispering about multiverse models and cosmological loops. Could this be a relic from a universe before ours? A fragment left over after a big bounce? A fossil of a previous reality bleeding into ours through unknown dimensional threads? Others are more grounded, yet no less provocative. They suggest this could be a probe. A kind of time capsule seeded across the cosmos by a civilization that anticipated the eventual rise of intelligence elsewhere. Something that wasn't meant to reach us in the short term, but that was built to endure, to wait in the dark for someone, somewhere, sometime to be capable of seeing it. There is something haunting about that idea. That the Webb telescope, the crown jewel of our scientific endeavor, may have finally glimpsed an artifact not just beyond Earth, but beyond time. Not a transmission, not a signal beam through space, but something fundamentally different. A silent marker left in the fabric of space itself. A monument in the language of light and gravity. An object that speaks not in words, but in geometry, frequency, and gravitational pull. It challenges our entire framework for interpreting what it means to be alone in the universe. What amplifies the weight of this moment is that Webb might be the only eye capable of seeing it clearly. Earth-based observatories have been redirected, desperate to catch even a glimpse of the anomaly through different wavelengths. Spectrometers, radio arrays, gravitational wave detectors. Every ear and eye we have is now straining toward this part of the sky. And yet, only Webb sees it in full clarity. Its position, far from the noise of Earth, and its unparalleled sensitivity to deep infrared light seem to make it uniquely suited to this task. Which leads to a chilling thought: what if this wasn't a coincidence? What if the structure was meant to be seen only by something like Webb? Not because it's hiding, but because it's selective. As though it waited to be revealed only when a civilization reached a certain threshold of technological maturity, one precise enough to escape its planet, to place eyes in deep space, to see the oldest light with new clarity. It's not a stretch to imagine that a message encoded in light might also be encoded in how it can be seen. That the act of building the right instrument is part of the message. That the medium is the invitation. Among scientists, no one says it out loud, but you can hear it in their interviews in the cautious way they describe the object. The sense that maybe, just maybe, we were always meant to find it. That Webb didn't stumble upon something new, but instead activated a discovery preordained by the very architecture of the cosmos. That the telescope was not just a window but a key, turning something dormant into something awake. And even if we remove artificiality from the equation, even if we convince ourselves that this object is natural, its implications are no less profound. Because then it proves that the universe is capable of spontaneous, vast complexity at a time when it should have been little more than a chaotic stew of hydrogen and helium. It suggests that cosmic evolution is not a slow churn toward order, but a leap, a burst, a sudden formation of coherent, beautiful, near-intelligent design long before galaxies were born. If such structures can emerge naturally, then perhaps the building blocks of intelligence are not fragile or rare, but common. Inevitable. The universe, under this model, becomes a creative force, an artist sculpting not randomly but rhythmically. Organizing matter with purpose and possibility baked into the very laws of physics. And if intelligence can arise in the first few 100 million years of the universe's history, then we may be unimaginably late to the party. We may be the ones awakening to a cosmos already written in someone else's script. A place with ruins so old they shine like stars and wait in silence for someone to read them. New proposals for missions are already forming. More powerful space telescopes, built to probe the deep infrared in even finer detail. Orbiting gravitational wave observatories that could one day detect subtle spacetime ripples the structure might be creating. Probes that could cross interstellar space slowly, methodically, to reach closer and see for themselves. For the first time in decades, the idea of exploring deep space not just for what's out there, but for who might be out there, feels less like hope and more like necessity. Something has awakened in the collective imagination of the scientific world. A feeling not of fear but of reverence. The Webb telescope didn't just capture data, it cracked something open. A veil. A silence. A mystery written in physics. Humanity may still be crawling among the stars, but in this moment, we are looking up with new eyes. Not in search of stars to map, but of minds to meet. And what we saw wasn't noise. It wasn't an error. It was something real. It hums with precision, pulses with intention, and radiates with a story older than time as we know it. A structure that whispers of things we've never imagined. It may not speak, but it listens. It may not move, but it waits. In that waiting is a kind of language, a kind of power, a message not meant to frighten but to awaken. We are not alone. We were never alone. The universe has been talking all along. We've only just learned how to listen. And now, having heard, we will never be the same.